The world wants you to believe, if you're Gen Z, that this is not possible. But you know what? I started investing when I was 22 years old, and I'm gonna tell you, the stats are showing us that Gen Z is slaying it in real estate compared to millennials or any other generation, and here's why.
One shot, now the future is yours. Go!
So why is Gen Z slaying it so hard right now in the game of real estate? There's a chance you're clicking on this video thinking, Kris, you're crazy, man. There's no way that generation is smoking it. Surprisingly, that generation has come on board, and there's a percentage of them that are now out in the marketplace, and guess what they're doing? They're participating in the game, they're buying real estate. Check this out. As of the second quarter of 2023, the median home price in the US was $416,000. And US households increased by just 10.1 million between 2010 and 2020. And to give you a frame of reference, it's like, 10 million new added homes in the United States from 2010 to 2020. Like, that's a good number, right? I'm like, false. That's a very bad number. That is fewer than in any other decade between 1950 and 2010. As in right now, we have a backlog of 6.5 million homes in this country. We have never been this far behind historically ever before, which is why when rates come down just even a little bit in 2024, guess what's gonna happen to the price of real estate? Barbara Cochran, everyone else in real estate, they're saying the same thing. I'm telling you, it's gonna skyrocket through the roof. Once it drops even just 1 to 2 percentage points, it's game over, which is why if you wanted to buy real estate, now would 100% be the time. But back to the millennials. The number of first-time home buyers declined to just 26% in 2022, which means that's the lowest level since the National Association of Realtors began tracking that data. So we have this huge disparity. We have all of this inventory. We're building fewer houses than ever before. We've got this backlog building up, and guess who's coming in tow to start buying the real estate? It's Gen Z. Now you might be thinking, come on, they're younger than the other generations. They've got to have less money. I mean, how on earth can this be happening? I mean, when we compare millennials to baby boomers, just across 2 generations by their 40s, did you know that baby boomers had 5 times more money than the millennials? Certainly Gen Z's got to have less, or maybe not. Check this out. When it comes to down payments, 40% of non-homeowners reported an inability to save for a down payment and closing costs. But can I tell you what the Gen Zers are doing? They're shacking up with mom and dad, they're saving on the rent money, they're saving up for a down payment, and they're getting into their houses sooner. Then you have inflation, right? Inflation remained elevated as of August 2023, and some analysts expect it to stay that way into 2024. Then you compound that with student loan debt, right? Both millennials and Gen Z, they're delaying buying a home because they've got this student loan debt. So both Gen Z and millennials, they've got the same problem, but millennials are stuck in it, and Gen Z, they're overcoming it. And here's what they're doing. Gen Z is quickly passing millennials as the coming of age consumer group. They only make up 4% of home buyers in the market, and yet 30% of Gen Z is able to go directly from their parents' home to a home that they own. And how are they actually doing this? Well, there's 3 major factors. When it comes to financing a home, check these 3 out. Number 1, as Gen Z copes with inflation and student loan debt, many have opted to stop renting and they're living with their parents, which means that they're saving on their biggest expense, because rent or a mortgage, those are any person's largest expense. So these young people are saying, nope, we're actually gonna live with mom and dad, and that's just for starters. Number 2, a substantial portion of this generation, 53%, they're working side hustles, so they're actually double dipping and they're earning more money. And I gotta tell you, like Gen Z, when you compare them to millennials, how are they the most different? 94% of Gen Z want to be entrepreneurs, more than any generation prior, which means that they are hustling on the side, which means they're actually outperforming millennials financially. And in 2022, 30% of 25-year-olds owned a home. I gotta say that one more time. In 2022, this last year, 30% of 25-year-olds already owned a home. That's like a third of all 25-year-olds when you think about it. At that same age, only 28% of millennials and 27% of Gen Xers owned homes. So there's definitely this trend moving where Gen Z is like, we're entrepreneurial, we get it, we're gonna hustle harder, we're gonna be smarter with our money, and we're gonna get into a house sooner. Now, it's not just that. They're also smarter across the board because they're not trying to buy the most expensive home. They're playing the game very, very different. And as a professional real estate investor, I'm going to tell you, I've done over $2 billion worth of real estate transactions. I've got partners all over the world. I help them build their portfolios so that when they get to retirement, they retire on millions of dollars. I got a link below, by the way, where you can learn about partnering with me, and I can make that happen for you. But when I invest in real estate, guess what I'm doing? I'm not honing in on $1 million homes or $20 million homes. I'm honing in on homes that are priced below the median. Because as homes appreciate in value, guess which ones increase at the highest percentage? Is it a home under the median, like a $200,000 or $300,000 home, or is it a $1 million home? Well, a $1 million home, when it goes up 10%, that's a whole lot more than a $200,000 home, but percentage-wise, the $200,000 home actually picks up the steepest gains. Guess where Gen Z is buying? They're most active in markets where home prices are still affordable. They're going to Cincinnati, Detroit, St. Louis, Indianapolis. Across these cities, the median home price for Gen Z, $255,000 or less. But if you take a look at most people, the national median is sitting over $400,000. So they're buying their homes for 30 to 45% less than the rest of the average market, and those also tend to be the homes that go up the most in value percentage-wise. Gen Z also purchases the smallest homes, so their median square feet, 1,480. And I'm gonna tell you, that's your bare bones basic 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, maybe a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. That home is going to see the greatest gains as the market appreciates. So let me tell you a story here of this young guy, Elijah Nevins. He bought this 3-bedroom home in Kansas City, Missouri for around $180,000. I want you to think about that for a moment. It's like, okay, like that's a super inexpensive home, but how did this young buck pull it off? Well, one of the few houses that wasn't actively falling apart, it didn't have major structural issues, and it was within that price range. And what he did is he did a year's savings at his job. He was a parts advisor at a car dealership. And between that and working with his mom, she helped him cover the very, very basic down payment. Now, together, Nevins and his mom put down less than 6% on the home, less than the traditional recommended 10 or 20%. So he's not only Gen Z homeowner breaking the housing market tradition, but the typical home purchased by someone under 25 in 2022 only costs $235,000. And they're using on average a down payment of only 4%. So you know what they're doing? They're targeting the right areas and they're saying homeownership is important to us, let's be smart. Millennials were not thinking that way. They're like, dude, we're all about flexibility. We don't want the white picket fence. We're gonna form families later down the road. And you know what? Financially, they were not being super intelligent with their money. Gen Z's picked up on that. They're playing the game different. I've been playing this game since day one as a 22-year-old, and I was financially free at the age of 26 because I had 25 properties. I wasn't rich. I didn't start with money. I didn't have any credit. I didn't have anything. All I had was a mentor that worked with me and said, hey, you don't need money, you don't need credit, but do these things and this is how you get ahead. Today, I'm that mentor for so many people. Gen Z is the first generation to grow up in an entirely digital age. They're following influencers and people like me talking about the game of real estate. And you know what? When I meet you around the country, you're crushing it and you're doing it. Listen very carefully if you're not Gen Z. If you're feeling late to the game, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling behind, you should be, because you probably are. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can partner with me. I'll do 100% of the work. I'll get you in the game of real estate playing at the highest level possible. Take what you've set aside in 401k, IRA, equity in a home savings, and let's team up and let me sick my team on this and help build you a multi-million-dollar portfolio. Click the link below. Let me show you exactly what it looks like, and let's get you caught up. All right, Krohn, I'm ready to play the game of real estate, but like you, I need to find a really good deal. How do I find a really good deal? Well, you watch this video and let me show you how to do it.